I don't ever want to deal with that again, unfortunately.
All right, guys, do you remember this guy here? This is Mark, all right? Mr. Gold's gym these days in Festiwalk, opening September 30th, soft opening. And but Mark just had a couple very eventful things happen in the last 30 days.
Yes.
One that was planned and one that was entirely not planned. Both of them health related. Let's talk about the good news one, actually. We'll start with the good news. Mark has become a newfound daddy. Not his first time, but you have a new baby girl.
That's right. It's her birthday tomorrow. She's going to be a whole 2 weeks old.
Do you get it? Is that what that
No,
works?
not really. But I mean,
The girls will.
In the Philippines, you do muncies. The first time my wife said what a muncie was, what's a muncie?
I've never
And then
heard
she's like, oh, that's your celebration every month. I go, that's so retarded. I go, it sounds like we're in high school.
Wow.
Anyway,
Wow.
she finally relinquished that and allowed for
You can do quarters? Oh, okay.
No, 1 year.
Okay, I thought you would have
anniversary.
negotiated.
The normal
something.
1 year anniversary. Muncies, it sounds like so high school.
Right. But it was really interesting because you had told me that, okay, so I said, wait a minute, are you going to giving birth at home? Because you hired a midwife.
Correct.
But what did you tell me?
In the Philippines, it's a birthing center. You have to go to the birthing center by law. They can't actually come to the house. My firstborn daughter was actually born with the midwife at home in the U.S. Actually came to the house.
Right.
It would have been more comfortable and probably better, but
Sure.
It is what it is. And I think the birthing cost in U.S. dollars was around $200. That was everything.
Wow. So total cost.
Yeah, and when my daughter was born 32 years ago, the total cost there in the U.S. was over $3,000. 30 years ago.
Wow, do the math now.
Yeah, I can't.
Wait, 30 now.
Right. Going into a hospital was not the thing because the procedures, they typically will try to keep the moms here longer than they should probably stay, and they separate them from the babies, which they know is not a good thing to do. That's really not a healthy thing psychological for the kid. They don't want to separate it from the mom right away.
Yeah.
So immediately the mom gets to stay. My wife went through a pretty quick labor to birth, so it was 12:30 midnight, of course.
But she waited a long time to have it.
That's true. She was overdue by a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I think she was probably going through light labor that whole entire day. She did an extremely large shot that she, for some reason, felt she had to get done.
Yeah, at SNR, she was shopping.
Yes. So she gets home at 12:30 at night. She's like, I think I'm having contractions, but real this time. And she's like, but I can just relax. I can relax. And I go, and then she doubles down over her stomach, and I'm like, oh, no, you got to go. And because of, well, the other medical issue.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that. I was going to say, you guys don't understand what he's been going through.
Yeah, the other medical issue, I couldn't go. And I was really frustrated, but we have some great, employees at the house here that were just right there with my wife and took her to the birthing center. And at 12:30 they left, and at 2:45 she gave birth. So
quick.
It was very quick, yeah. So she just rested up the night there at the birthing center, and she was home here the next day by 11, which was great.
So that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that's
it's
good.
quick.
Yeah, I thought it was unusual that you said that because not being allowed to birth at home, because in many parts of the Philippines where it's very remote, they may not have anything, and they're getting born by their aunt, their mother, grandmother, whatever, family members, and in their home. But it's illegal. But it's not. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's interesting.
You think about it, 150 years ago, nobody went to the doctor to have their baby. So this has been going on since the beginning of mankind. So it's not as unusual or weird as a lot of people take it because we're just so used to going to the doctors, right?
Sure. And I'm doing with the charity with the cleft palate and everything, and I do want people to be able to examine the child at birth so that any problems or anything can be dealt with immediately anyway.
Yeah.
So I get the other side of it too.
Yeah. So the reason that I couldn't go to the hospital is about 2 weeks prior to the birth, I was walking down my steps in my house, and we have a landing, so it's halfway down, and then you go to the other half. I thought I was at the landing. I took the step and anticipating the floor being there, and it wasn't there, and went straight down all my weight right on my knee, and right where your patella is attached to where they normally check your reflexes, that entire region
just below your kneecap.
Yeah, basically separate. I thought I broke my kneecap, but my knee actually was up in my upper leg, and all the tendons around it were completely ripped loose. So I basically ruptured my kneecap tendon completely. The most painful thing I've ever had. I've had back surgery. I've had a hip replacement that was nothing in comparison to this. So yeah, needless to say, I was whisked off to the hospital and, stayed in a presidential suite for.
Yeah, well, yeah. Let's talk about it. So we have there's many new hospitals here in Iloilo City, but one of them is called
It's called
Asia Pacific.
Asia Pacific, yes.
Asia Pacific Hospital. It looks very fancy, and you can see it right from the main road going from Santa Barbara where the airport is, or whenever coming straight down. Can't miss it. It really is standing out there, and it's only been open less than a year.
Yeah, less than a year.
And I saw all the MRI equipment go in, everything, and I know they had a long time before they could open when I lived here because they needed to have enough nurses to meet the minimum standard to open. And but then they finally did open. And the interesting thing about it is what we imagine hospitals, but private care you can't imagine, right?
Right.
Can you describe the room you got?
The room would have been equal to probably a 4-star hotel resort. It had a semi-complete kitchen with a refrigerator and a bathroom in a separate room from the room I was staying in. The room I was staying in had a exceptionally nice bathroom with the Japanese smart toilets in both rooms.
Wow.
So you didn't have the little bidet that you have to use. It was actually built into the seat, which under my circumstances, I had to go to the bathroom. It's extremely difficult. I had to keep my legs straight.
Yeah.
So in order to use the old bidet that they have here, it wasn't going to happen. I just couldn't do it. So I was pretty fortunate that they had that. And retail value on that room is $275 a day, but with insurance, it's not that much. It's a reduction because I have the insurance package that gives me private room on my package.
Right.
And my insurance is great. The problem is the hospital hasn't learned to their billing department and their admin hasn't really gotten it down yet.
Yeah.
So the billing process was extremely painful. The hospital's beautiful. The doctor I have was phenomenal. But if I have anything that was disappointing, they really need to work on their billing process. My wife, being at the time almost ready to give birth, kept her in the billing department for over 4 hours and not being able to figure out what was going on between the insurance and the hospital. So my wife she called me, she told me she was dizzy. We ended up just paying out of pocket, which we were getting reimbursed, but I was in the hospital for 4 days, orthopedic surgery on my leg, all expenses, everything done was $3,800.
Yeah. Isn't that incredible? 3,800, which 190,000? Does that work?
Yeah, but it was about 192,000.
So to be clear, Michael Onstad was their insurance agent.
Yeah, and he's great.
Yeah, and it wasn't the insurance company's fault. They actually proactively got involved.
Yep.
Right? When they first found out you were in the hospital,
Yep.
they already contacted the hospital, right?
It
was literally because this hospital hasn't yet got their ducks in a row, I guess, on how to properly charge, I don't know, like process payments.
It was such a ping pong match between, and then as soon as we said we were going to pay cash, done just like that.
Well, that sounds convenient, doesn't it?
Right. And then I went in there for some minor, I had an abscess in my shoulder, so I had an infection, it had to be removed. So I went there and I paid out of pocket for that surgery room, all this.
Yeah, I remember that.
It took them 45 minutes to do that, but it took us almost 3.5 hours for the billing process to pay cash to get out of the hospital. So I really don't get it. I was so incredibly
well, even when
frustrated.
you went back to have the stitches removed, or the staples.
Yeah, well, that was supposed to be part of the original payment that I made for the whole thing, and they tried to bill me, which they did because I had somebody there paying my bill for me because I couldn't walk that far. And then they turned around, and I heard that nurses were in there arguing, and it turned out that they weren't even supposed to charge me to have the staples removed. It felt like I was in a U.S. hospital. They charged me $1,000 for the assistant, who all she didn't do was watch. Another $1,000 for the doctor. Another $1,000.
These are pesos.
Yeah, pesos. And
under $20 each.
And another $1,000 for the operating room or being on their bed. And then they charged me another 400 and some pesos for the stapler remover. I didn't even get to take it home. I mean, like, and the bandage. So we're starting to really mirror how the United States does their hospital.
Well, they're learning from the best.
That's true. But the thing is the insurance that we had, which is fantastic, would have covered all this, but we just didn't have the time to wait 8 or 9 hours. So they'll reimburse me. We already submitted all the paperwork. I'm sure I'm going to be getting it any day.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, I'm glad I went to the hospital part was great. The surgery part went fine. It's just they need to relax administration. I don't ever want to deal with that again, unfortunately.
That sounds like worse than the surgery. No, I know it is. I know it is, and I'm just kidding.
I still can't even walk right, but if you want to see, I had the staples removed.
He's got...
still swollen a little bit.
It is. It is. Look at that, guys. Look at that.
So it's still pretty tight, even though we're going on a full 4 weeks.
How did you describe it?
It feels like a snare drum.
Nice.
So when I try to bend the leg, everything feels so tight. I'm able to bend it almost at a 45-degree angle without it hurting. It's just that tightness around my knee, that's going to take time. So I'm still not walking right. I stand around too much. It gets exhausted, gets swollen. But, it's just going to take time. It's probably going to be the longest healing time of anything.
And if you bend it too often, then it's going to get inflamed. And then it's going to be so hard to sleep. It's just going to...
Yeah. So, I've got the anti-inflammatories. Well, yeah, we'll see.
Well, at least he had some time to heal before the baby showed up. It was almost like it was meant to be that way because she literally, when you fell down, she could have at any moment said, "It's time."
Yep.
And you could have been on the ground going, "I'm not going anywhere."
Well, I still couldn't because I couldn't bend my leg enough to get into the car when she went into labor. But the good thing was my leg was getting to the point where I was able to get in and out of bed, which took almost 10 days to do. So it's kind of a blessing. So I was able to do that. So I didn't need as much assistance from her as I originally needed. So I don't know. I just think everything just lined up just perfectly. And I mean, as perfect as it could.
Yeah, exactly. Well, really, if you take away the billing for a second, okay? And if you had been patient enough, eventually you wouldn't have had to pay cash, right?
True. Yes.
Eventually.
I think because I did an upgraded room, I think I would have had to pay the difference, but it wasn't going to be that much.
Right. Sure.
So
outside of that, it's impressive enough. The care you get here, the medical treatment, the facilities, the cleanliness, all that stuff.
Yeah.
You have no issues.
No issues. I've had surgeries in the U.S. where I had to stay overnight, and the nurses coming into your room, checking on you, and all that was no issues. When I post surgery, I always tell the nurses, do not come and wake me up because they'll come every hour to check your blood pressure. Yeah. And quite honestly, I'm not in critical care. I just leave me alone, let me sleep,
Yeah.
And fortunately, my wife was guarding the door, and the first night they decided to come in a few times until she said that's enough. And well, they never came back to the room at nighttime anyways.
Yeah. Well, there you go, guys. So I know a lot of people are concerned about healthcare, stuff like that when they come to the Philippines. And for some good reason, obviously, it depends where you're going to live. If you're going to live way out in the provinces somewhere or whatever, of course, you're not going to get the same kind of healthcare that Mark was able to get here. This is his second surgery, one planned, one not planned. When I say planned, he was able to go to a couple other hospitals and figure out which one he would like to get it done at. Or this time, obviously, it was an emergency.
Yeah.
But and then, of course, the birth. So far, so good. So for those who were terrified of the healthcare here and so scared to come to the Philippines, maybe this might help you be more assured that it's not what you think it is. It's not anywhere like that if you come to the big cities.
And if you're concerned about your healthcare and your health, definitely don't do the mistake I made. Research the area you're going to, see what the hospitals are like. Like I said, I originally moved to Quran. And my understanding, that hospital, you don't go there for anything other than to be put in a body bag. I mean, it's got that bad of a reputation. Most everybody that can will fly off that island to go somewhere else to get care. But if you had an emergency heart attack situation on a Sunday and the ATMs don't have any money in town, they're not going to work on you there.
Wow.
So that's kind of a scary thought. And once I realized all this, and of course, following your channel as long as I did, I needed to move to a more metropolitan, forward-thinking island because I was in a bad situation. If anything major ever happened, like this knee injury, for instance, I would have had to go to Manila to get this done because you want a doctor that has done this several times, not go, oh, this is the first knee thing I've ever done like this.
Yeah.
And sorry you can't walk anymore, sir. I highly doubt there's no malpractice here.
No. So if you're going to come to an area, all the hospitals here, if you go there and you say, I'm moving to this area, I want to make sure I'm trying to find a good healthcare provider for a hospital for me, that kind of thing. Before I decide to move to this area, most of them will give you a tour if it's a private hospital.
They will.
They'll give you a full tour. You'll get a good understanding of all their facilities, what they do have, what they don't have, MRIs, CAT scans, all that stuff. And so it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yep. Exactly.
All right, Mark, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations, Daddy.
Thank you.
won't be able to come to Laura's birthday now, though. They're going to be a little preoccupied with their little.
That I can't really walk to. Still,
Yeah, we can leave him be.
I'll just sit in the truck and wait.
We'll bring him some cake.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
Take care. Thanks, Mike.
At 29 and I find myself wondering what did happen to the last 10. I ran away with my life, fast forward, never turn back again.